It's your future with Joyce Gioia. Want to know what's coming and how to prepare for it? This show is for you. Armed with this information and these insights, our host Joyce Gioia will help you make better decisions both personally and professionally. Joyce will cover all the trends, from social to economic, to workforce, and more. You will have a chance to get your questions answered in a segment we call, I'm Glad You Asked. This is one show you can't afford to miss. Now on Futures Television. It's your future with Joyce Gioia.
Hello and welcome to It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia. I am Rom Gayoso, co-host. We are broadcasting via Futures Television, the home of the future on television. If you're listening to the show via podcast or watching us on TV, you too can be part of the conversation. Just visit our YouTube channel, and that is IMCI Magazine, where we continue to chat about the topic of the day. You can also access this information on our website, and that is www.futurestelevision.com, so don't be shy. We transmit via Roku TV, that is the Roku app, the memory stick, or the Roku TV sets, and also via Apple TV. So don't forget to add Futures Television to your preferred list of channels using your Apple TV device. You can also listen to the show via Radio Futures, the wave of the future on the radio. Today, our topic is the intersection of AI and marketing. And for that, we will speak with Elizabeth Clare Brewington from Brightside Multichannel magazine. So before I get started, let me say a few words about the show. If you have a question about what's coming and would like to find out how to prepare for it, then worry no more. Our host, Joyce Gioia, will share lots of valuable information, thought-provoking ideas, and some great insight about a variety of topics, and she will cover several emerging trends. And armed with this information and these insights, you are sure to make better decisions. Well, without further ado, let's welcome Joyce Gioia to the show. How are you doing today, Joyce?
Doing just great, Rom. Thanks for asking. It's great to see you again.
How wonderful. What a beautiful day, and how wonderful to see you. So say a few words about our guest today before we actually get started with our conversation. So let's say a few words about Elizabeth Clare Brewington. So Elizabeth has a global persona and working in America and abroad on some of the world's most illustrious brand campaigns. She has more than 20 years experience of leading and producing agency content for government, Fortune 500 brands, academy, and award-winning actors. She has led multicultural marketing campaigns, particularly for the African American and Asian Indian markets. Elizabeth wrote a research paper on artificial intelligence for public relations practitioners and is now creating an awareness for AI applications for marketing agencies. Well, without further ado, let's welcome Elizabeth to the show. How are you doing, Elizabeth? How wonderful to have you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on the show. And I've had such a wonderful time with Joyce. She was on our show, so this is great. Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I have some questions for you, as normally we would
Sure.
have in an interview. So I'd like to start by your telling us how you became interested in the intersection of marketing and AI. And while you're doing that, would you please include some of your background?
Sure. So this goes back to 33, 34 years ago, when Bill Gates came up with a speech about multimedia, the future of using technology. And it's taken the whole world, not just me, experts, to just bring the hardware and software and then getting them all to like each other and work well together. And then there's been so many companies that have had to collaborate to get the world to this point. And I think everyone in history is going to talk about 2023, because 2023, the year that we're here, is actually the year we're ushering artificial intelligence. And I don't think any of us, especially not me, none of us ever thought that this would ever be a reality. And that's why investors have been excited about artificial intelligence, but they've been slow in investing as well. But we've seen a huge change very suddenly. So yes, I've been very involved with artificial intelligence for a very long time, and I've been on and off it, because I've had different jobs and different careers, and we went through the phase of cloud, and then we went through MySpace, and we went through so many eras to get to this point. So now I feel like I'm writing a book, and it's going to be more of a community learning book, because I don't think I can ever say that I'm an expert. And I don't think anybody can say they're an expert, because it's changing so rapidly. So I said, rather than write a book, I would make it into a workshop, and I would, share it with the Brightside community and the world, so that we could learn this together, because I don't think we can ever learn this individually, because it's just going to involve so many collaborations to make this happen. So I think the pandemic, making us work in a virtual environment could have been one of the reasons to speed it up. But I also think this little chip that the automobile industry had to stop manufacturing for, and this little chip, I think we've learned a lot from. So I think there's been a lot of little things going on in the background, which we don't know about. But I think that we're all very excited, because I think artificial intelligence is here, and I think none of us can say now that let's wait for another 5 years. I think we've got to get into adoption of it.
So, how do you see AI and ChatGPT, of course, we need to include that, transforming the marketing landscape in the next few years?
So McKinsey wrote a study. They went around the world and they, interviewed people. So marketing has always been very slow with AI. It has always, when I wrote my research paper 33 years ago, the PR practitioners, the ad agencies, the Fortune 500 marketing departments were not in a hurry. They were not in a hurry, and they just didn't want to change, because they've been doing this for years and years and years, and they didn't want anything new, and they were happy with the way they were going. And it's also to do with contracting. You've got these prime contractors that own the space, so they would lose, like, hundreds and hundreds of agencies, and there's so much of talent, and they would have to change everything. So they've been very reluctant to change, and corporate America has been very reluctant to change. So I think while Chat GBT will be out there, you're already seeing Google getting involved, and Adobe getting involved. So you're going to see a lot of that happening from an investment point of view. There's going to be a lot of mergers and collaborations, and the young entrepreneurs will be the first, of course, always to adapt it. But the marketing team, I'm saying this because I just know it, they're going to take a little longer to just embrace it, because there's just so much money involved, and there's just so many things involved. But where we'll see a lot of the adoption will be in technology. So when you think of a camera, there'll be more robotic technology. So the camera shakes. You've looked at the drone. So when you're making video commercials, editing, so all that equipment changes, where there's nothing to do with strategy, and you just buy a piece of equipment and you use it. So I think that's going to be faster moving. And software. So when Microsoft adopts it, you're already a Microsoft user, so ChatGPT will be part of your life. So it'll still go through those regular channels before it gets to that very exciting point, which how do we use it? So I think we're going to see it in little bits and pieces. We're going to see, like, it in graphic design, cinematography, and as long as it's going through the channels that I would call the old school or the old boys are using, it'll be adopted. But when it comes to the new and exciting world of what it really can do, that's going to be a little bit of a push. And that's where we come in, because it's all going to be about salespeople. It's all going to be about, experienced people. It's all going to be about how we sell this to corporate America and to the ad agencies. And until that happens and that adoption happens and that change happens, we'll be going at the pace that technology is going, which is a good thing because we don't want to go too fast.
Well, let me share with you a quick story. Once upon a time, I was doing a lot of local television, and I was pitching a producer at WUSA in Washington, D.C., to do a segment called Three Mistakes to Avoid to Not Lose Your Job to a Robot. And the producer said, I can do every segment that you've suggested except that one. And I said, why not that one? And she said, because we just removed our camera people from the floor and replaced them with robots. So it's a little bit sensitive of an issue right now.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Well, the machines are coming. We've been we've been scared of them, and it is disturbing because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to lose their jobs, and it's going to be a big transition. And I think for those who were worried about call centers going to India and Asia and they didn't like talking to foreigners on the phone with their credit card information, well, guess what? Now you're going to be talking to robots. So, so a lot of that change, which was so hard for us, and we didn't like all those prompters and everything. But I think with voice integration, we're going to solve a lot of the problems that we've not liked about technology. I was talking to a 90-year-old woman, and she was telling me how she couldn't stand these waiting on the phone and talking to these representatives, and they didn't understand her voice. And so I said, guess what? And she said, maybe I should do a computer class. And I said, you know what? You don't need a computer class because we're going to be in an age now where you can talk to the robot. So she was like, really? I said, yes. I said, you don't need computer lessons or anything now because it's going to be so user friendly that we're gonna solve some of those major problems that we had. So yeah.
Can you give us an example of how AI has improved a marketing campaign's effectiveness, or is that not within
No.
something that you've? Okay, great.
So yeah, so we've looked at it in many ways. So when you just take a simple thing like photography, when a photo shoot happens for a commercial or for a PR assignment or an event, the photographer would have like 500-600 photos. And back in the day, hours and hours would be spent looking for the right photo. And that was just not just at the photographer level. Then it goes to the agency. Then there's like 10-30 people looking at photos, and that's time and money. Then you go to the corporation, to the brand team, and they're looking at photos and selecting. And this is a waste of time. So the computer now, because of workflows and AI, and we've seen a lot of that happening, even at the normal level, is that you're going to save time. So the computer is going to just select the photos for you, and then you're going to just be able to take it to your client, or even the client and the agency will be able to look at it at the same time. And even the same with music, with songs, with art, with everything. So the workflow that used to take hours and hours of labor hours and fees will be reduced significantly. And I think you're seeing that already happening. Then at the customization level, those annoying call centers and those upsetting phone calls that you've been getting, or emails that you didn't want. So you're going to see a lot of customization coming out from AI, which is going to eliminate, like if you have a database of 10 million people, it's going to say, no, only 2 million are going to be interested in this product because blah, 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 blah. So it's going to cut time and a lot of what I would call nonsense. So there'll be a lot of intelligence coming through. So marketing will be a lot better, and advertising, it will be a lot better because, it's the behavior and what ads people are interested in. And so I think there's going to be so much of that customization that will improve tremendously. Then for research, all those hours of focus groups and testing creative, I think that's another area which I'm seeing that there'll be a big difference. So I think
Wow.
there's going to be some good cost savings and some exciting things that you'll see a lot. Now on the creative side, we need to be more responsible. And I think Adobe stepped in first to talk about that, because you don't want to replace an artist, never. You don't want to replace the model, never. You don't want to replace people. So the creative part of the business, which is the models and the artist, I think we'll have to figure out some kind of licensing or some kind of thing to keep original work original. And I think that will be the challenge. So like AI can take like 1,000 millions of photos and then just make it into a new creation, juggle it up and blah blah blah. And I think that's upsetting the original artist, because you don't want your photo to be muddled with hundreds of other photos. And so I think at that point, the lawmakers will have to come in, and SAG, the Screen Actor Guild, the unions will have to come in, and laws will have to be made on how AI will protect the right of the actor, the artist. So I think that's an area that's going to be, we're going to have some years of going back and forth before we can let AI just invade on our creativity.
So, besides that creative aspect and the fact that most people have a terminal case of inertia and don't want to change,
Yes.
what are the challenges that you see in implementing AI in marketing, and how do you think they could be overcome?
I think it has to start with the CEO level. I think it has to start from the top. So AI is going, and I think McKinsey or one of the studies talked about it, that AI is going to have to be at the very top level. It has to be in every single plan. It has to be at the level that's going to implement it all the way down. So it's going to have to go vertical first. And I think that you're going to have to start hiring strategists. There was a long time ago when people who were in strategy were like eliminated, almost like couldn't find a job because there was no more strategic jobs. But I think now is the time for strategy. So I think you're going to see a lot of those jobs being recreated. We will not need all the computer people anymore, because coding, that I'll talk about that in a minute. But you will need more people now to do strategy. And so it has to go at the top level of how you're going to implement AI into your culture. And then it's going to then have to come into the culture. So it's going to be a big amount of strategy. That's my opinion. Yeah.
So it's going to take organizations deliberately working from the top down to engage the employees and get buy-in, is what
Yes.
you're
Yes.
saying.
So it's almost like when we had the green movement, we had a big thing. Then we had sustainability, which became a big item. Then you had diversity. So now AI is going to be that new leg. So there's going to be one more thing to have to talk about. Yeah.
Here's a really interesting question. How do we establish the right kind of culture and foundation in organizations so that AI powered marketing campaigns will be accepted without the pushback that they would normally get?
I think it will depend on each individual corporation. So you're going to see the entrepreneurs going faster. So the young small ad agencies that work out of their garages, the YouTubers, the giga community, they're gonna jump on this fast, and they're probably going to get a lot of money very quickly. We're going to see a lot of millionaires come out of this. So, corporations will always hire a young ad agency with no experience because they just know about AI. So you're going to see a lot of that happening. So a lot of young kids and young entrepreneurs will become very rich very quickly, because they will be getting those contracts. And the other slower to move corporations will take their time because they just have a process that they have to process this. So they're not going to be able to just, like have a robot walk into their office. So I think that you're going to see it at different paces. I think you're going to see it at different levels. Yeah, before it becomes consistent.
What skills do marketers need to develop to work effectively with AI in their campaigns?
So now this is a really important topic because we in America and around the world have used coding. Now, coding is like the most essential thing in IT or technology for years, because coding protects us, from people violating us, from hackers. It's a way to monitor, what we're doing, and it's also like a library. It's also a way that you can categorize it. But artificial intelligence is moving so fast that they're saying it may not have coding. If it doesn't have coding, then it's a security risk. Then it's another story. That's another thing that's going to come up upon. So we're going to have to watch and see. But we were anyway, like when I was with renewable energy, and we were talking about coding and the building codes, and how do you bring in green and all that. So the coding has been old for years. We've been having problems with coding forever. So coding needs to go anyway, when and come up with a new significant coding, but that's going to be very expensive. So I don't know if coding can just, we can just hide it behind the backdrop and blah blah blah. So as long as we have coding, we're going to need engineers and scientists, and the people that know what they're doing. But if coding goes away, then it could be just anyone could be able to do artificial intelligence, because it will be so user friendly. Just like now when you want to go to Quora or Google and type in something you need, and it just shows up. So it's intelligent, so it's going to make you very smart. It's going to make you much smarter than you've ever been. And so then you may not need to learn anything, because it's going to do it for you. So you're going to just be like, I don't know, I hope we don't become too dumb that we just use the machine. But the
Yeah,
machine
that
is
would be
going
a
to do most
problem.
of it. So you won't need math skills. You won't The machine is going to do it for you. So, like, if you want to talk about marketing, if you want to like do graphic design, you won't need to know how to draw. You won't need to have to go to art school, because the software is going to do it for you. So it's going to be so user friendly that you may not need a lot of skills, but you will need experience, because you're going to have to figure out how you're going to use it. Yeah.
Well, I have a question
So,
coming from YouTube channel. So Elizabeth, a question for you from YouTube, and it's in regards to ethics. So how do you actually ensure that AR powered marketing campaigns are ethical and
That
they avoid unintended consequences? So ethics and AI, how does that work?
Well, Ozzy, that's an excellent question. Really excellent. So I think that we talked a little bit about responsible sourcing. So if someone is very responsible about a model or an artist or someone, and you will not just take their photos and steal them on the internet and then just throw them into the machine, and and do a piece of art or a movie. So responsible is, there will still be intellectual laws, copyright laws. That's ethical. So we're not going to just, steal music, take all the songs, and, Rihanna songs, the Beyonce songs. And so there will still have law and order when it comes to what we use. So there will be copyrighted art and copyrighted music, and then there'll be art that's available for free. So if nobody has trademarked, or you just put your song on YouTube and anybody can grab it, then it's gone. But there will be law and order when it comes to copyright, and so that is the only way to be ethical. The second way to be ethical is to be conscious of what it is that you're using. So if you go to OpenAI or ChatGPT and you want to, load photos, then make sure that those are photos that you took and you didn't steal them from someone else. So you want to always make sure that you are being ethical in what you're doing. So it will have the unregulated, and you'll always have people that steal content. That's been going on forever. So they will always be unethical. So I think it starts with us, with the one person. If you're ethical and I'm ethical, then we're making a group of ethical people. But it is going to be difficult because sourcing will be, art is freely available, music is freely available. So how do you protect your rights?
Thank you.
Okay. So I want to go back to skills.
Okay.
Because what I heard was that you will need to have the skill of being able to put into words what you want from the AI.
Yep.
And I think that may be something that some people will need to learn. Yeah?
Yeah, of course. You would have to have some, like, for example, if you're writing a letter, but you're terrible. You're not the best writer in the world. So ChatGPT, Copy AI, you could just type it and they'll give you, scenarios. They'll give you, examples, like Grammarly, it autocorrects. So that you didn't have to now be like the top writer. But then again, there's a copyright issue because they're just going to be programmed with other letters that they read. So then the question becomes about being original, because you'll have the same letter that another million people will have. So yeah, you would still need your own skills. Absolutely.
Okay, so I want to go back to something else that you happened to mention earlier in this interview. You talked about the fact that AI could be used to personalize marketing content for specific audiences. Do you want to share with us an example, a specific example of what you're talking about there?
So for example, a very simple example would be if you were to use something like Constant Contact, and you want to share an email, and let's say you have 30,000 people in your database, it will customize it and say, "Dear Joyce," so your first name and your last name. So that's like a personalized message. But now let's say you want to talk about artificial intelligence or chat GPT. Let's say you want to write a letter and you want to tell people about artificial intelligence and chat GTP. So you might not know the subject matter very well. So you're going to just say, "Dear Joyce, I want to talk to you about artificial intelligence. It's so excited. 2023 is ushering the year. It is about da 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 da." Then the machine, or what we call Copy AI, or whatever the software you use, it's going to write that for you. So like if you were a scientist and you had to do references and you'd have to make sure that you were fact checking, you were writing things that were, so the computer is going to do that for you. It's going to write you such a paragraph in your letter that will give you great information, and make you look excellent, like the subject matter. So
Right, but specifically we're talking about personalization. So do you see, as we move into the future, that the the AI would keep track of our psychographics, the
Possible.
psychographics of each individual, and
Yes.
then tailor the messages to the individual.
Yes.
So, for instance, if someone was particularly interested in sports, then there
Mhm.
might be some sports analogies. If someone was particularly interested in music, then they
Yeah.
would use hearing words. Yeah. So you see that happening. Okay.
Like you right now you have Alexa. Everybody's familiar with Alexa. So Alexa, what music can I
Too
listen to?
familiar, I
Right?
think.
Now take that to a bigger level where Alexa will be able to store what you like. So let's say, you're on a diet, you only want to eat health foods. So take it to that level where you will program it, or what it'll be able to register ahead of time that you don't eat onions, or you don't have oil, or and it
Yeah.
will not just give you an advertiser could then not just advertise to you just because they want you to come to the restaurant, but also for you to order a specific menu item, whatever. So now it's going to give you recommendations, which is kind of scary, because then you're never going to order your own sandwich. So it's going to give you suggestions. Yeah. So it's going to be advertising at a whole new level. And and then from a data point of view, we're going to be able to say, oh, okay, so everybody went vegan this month. So,
Well, I feel like that to a degree,
yeah.
Amazon has been using that for years, right?
Yep.
To suggest books for us. So I think that
We have a
you're
couple more questions if we could.
okay, sure.
Just sorry to interrupt you. So, teacher, I know is asking you a question. Teachers are all about education and training. So, what about our kids? So, all this change that's coming up. So, what kind of skills should our kids be looking to acquire? So, all the kids that are growing up now and all this automation and robots and all this stuff. So, in the old days, you used to say, learn computers, learn programming, learn this. So, what kind of skills should they be looking to acquire?
I think we still want them to know reading, math, science. I think we don't want kids to just move away completely from the core, education points of view. And I know kids are going to hate it. They're going to want to go and be with the robot, and they're going to want all the exciting technologies, and they're not going to want to read and write. And that we actually have very sad statistics that came out after the pandemic, that our kids are really lagging behind. So the teachers are going to have an even harder time now to get kids to focus on reading and writing and math and science. So yeah, but we don't want them to move away from that, because you just don't want people to only learn what's being programmed, because they will never use their own intelligence and never be smart on their own. And I've said this many times, is that we have to be better than the machine. You don't want the machine to be smarter than you, so you have to keep using your own brain, and you have to keep getting smarter than the machine, because otherwise, if the machine is going to, like, when you watch television, it just runs whatever you're supposed to, that's not intelligent at all. So kids are going to still, unfortunately, they're still going to have to learn how to read and write and math and science, because we're
So,
going
the
to have to, yeah,
and
we're
more
gonna let them.
creativity and not so much automation.
Well, they'll have to do both. So I think it's going to be really tough, because first of all, just to get through the school regulation to make a change is going to be a big thing. So I guess children who are homeschooled will probably adopt technology faster than classrooms. Yeah, which is what we're seeing all over the country. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Back to you, Joyce.
Okay, thanks, Ram. So I have my final question, besides how people can reach you, is how can marketers stay ahead of the curve in terms of AI?
I think attend a lot of conferences. So Advertising Week is one of the conferences that I would highly, highly recommend. Come to my Brightside events. But I think collaborative learning is something that you want to stay on top of. You want to go to a lot of networking. You want to get more involved with AI, and I think you want to, stay with your networks, because I think this is, as I said in the earlier in the interview, I'm not an expert, and I don't think anyone is. So we're gonna have to learn this together, and it's not just like, you want to learn, how to do a job, because this is going to be changing every day. So you want to stay on top of it. So yeah, I would say do a lot of a lot of that.
Thank you. So let's finally find out how people might reach you, Elizabeth.
So it's very simple. I have a website called brightsideglobaltrade.org, and you can sign up for any of my events. I host an event every single month, and you can just use the contact page to contact me, or you can call me at 919-891-0145 if you'd like to talk to me. So it's really simple.
Excellent. Excellent. Do you want to talk a little bit about Brightside Global before we go?
Yeah, so Brightside is just an online multi-channel magazine, and we just have different channels that we share information on. And we've just grown, into a subscriber group, and so we formed the Brightside Club, so that we would know who our subscribers are, and that way we can stay connected with them. So we have a lot of fun. We give a lot of prizes. We bring experts. Joyce was on the show, and so we have a lot of people that come and talk, because I really believe none of us are experts, and I believe that collaboration is the way to go. So I bring a lot of speakers, and you get to learn and grow and learn new things.
Thank you so much. Elizabeth, it has been a pleasure and privilege to have you here today. So
Well,
thanks
thank you.
so much for being my guest today on It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia.
Well,
Back to
thank
you,
you.
Ram.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Elizabeth. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
You were
that's
saying.
good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both of you, Ram and Joyce. I enjoyed this very much, and I'm new to StreamYard, so this is exciting to be on. So thank you.
Thank
Well,
you so much. Back to
thank-
you, Ram.
And of course, Joyce is the author of Experience Rules, How Positive Experiences Will Drive Profit into the Future. And Joyce has an upcoming presentation at the VC Latinx conference that is coming up pretty soon. Joyce, why don't you share a little bit with us? What are you going to be talking about during the conference?
Great idea, Ram. So the conference itself is for women who are starting out, who are starting up new organizations. And that's what I'm going to talk about. It is Experience Rules for Startups. And it takes the information and the insights from the book and applies them to their lives as startup founders. And that's what I think will be the most valuable for that particular audience. And not only am I going to do a 25-minute presentation at the conference, but I'm actually going to do an entire course on the same topic. It's not going to be exactly the same, and there will definitely be lots more insights and information in the course that I'm working on. However, they will be both aimed at the same audience, because that's who VC Latinx is being designed and created for, right?
Yes, exactly. Well, again, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you learned something new about AI and marketing. Please share your comments with us. So it's time for us to say our goodbyes. Thank you so much, for you being here with Joyce, Elizabeth, and I. And remember, if you're watching the show on Futures Television as a podcast or as a recorded event in one of the social media platforms, you too can be part of the conversation. Just watch for the links on this video so we can continue the conversation on our YouTube channel. Again, I hope to see you again on yet another episode of It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ram.
It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia. Want to know what's coming and how to prepare for it? This show is for you. Armed with this information and these insights, our host Joyce Gioia will help you make better decisions both personally and professionally. Joyce will cover all the trends, from social to economic, to workforce, and more. You will have a chance to get your questions answered in a segment we call, I'm Glad You Asked. This is one show you can't afford to miss. Now on Futures Television. It's Your Future with Joyce Gioia.